The initial landing for an unauthenticated user is this external login screen. Taking a look at this accordion menu on the left, corporate travel policy and award programs are accessible before logging in, as this information is available to the public. Once a user is logged in, this view becomes the main page, which immediately presents the most relevant functions and information necessary for using the tool. As you can see, the placement of common elements on this accordion to the left does not change when switching between the logged out and logged in versions of the tool. Book travel and reimbursement requests are links that will lead the user to create the two main types of requests that are handled by ExpenseIt. We'll come back to these links shortly. My Request History allows a user to see lists of requests under certain categories, and Find Requests allows a user to search for requests, which is also available in the corner here, by different criteria, and in addition to an advanced search with multiple criteria. The My Open Requests tab on this main area of the page is the default view upon entering the tool. The main area here has been designed to provide as much information as possible without overcrowding the screen. One of the ways we accomplish this is by having a hover over feature, which isn't demonstrated within this tool specifically, but if we were to hover over the approver name, we would see details about the approver. Hovering over Cost Center would give us details about that cost center and associated projects. And hovering over the total amount would give us a tooltip that tells us what some of the itemization of that request is, some of the breakdown. The My Open Requests tab represents requests which the logged-in user has submitted, but which haven't been completed or finalized. Travel reservations may not yet have been booked, or the reimbursement may not have been paid out. We originally included the requester's name as one of the fields on this table. However, we removed it based on user feedback that these are obviously requests created by the user. The My Rejected Requests tab represents requests that have been submitted by the user, but that have been rejected by the approving manager for the cost center. The layout is the same as that of the Open Requests tab. It is consistent across those two tabs. Completed requests are requests that have been submitted by the user and either the travel reservation has been made or the reimbursement request has been paid out to the user. There was some discussion on our team as to whether or not we should include status as one of the columns on this page for consistency with the first two tabs. However, we removed it due to the fact that all would have the same value. They would all be completed in that status column. The Awaiting My Approval tab has more functionality than the others, as there are more actions that can be taken on a request in this category. Another column is added, allowing users to select multiple requests for approval or rejection at the same time. We can select all requests at once, or we can select a few. In this case, we're going to reject 3 at once. We click Reject Selected. The user is given the option to provide feedback as to why they're rejecting these requests, and then we can reject the requests. Indicated by the instructions for this tab, clicking on a request will view more details for that request. This page includes all request details, which can be reviewed by the manager, who will then either approve or deny the request. The user can see information about the cost center by clicking on this button next to it, including the project name, the description of the project, the original budget for the listed employees, and the remaining budget for those employees to travel. The manager can choose to schedule a meeting with the requester in cases where there are questions about the request itself. He can select a date and a time, including information about how he would like to meet and an agenda for the meeting. He can then send a notification to the user and return to the request itself. Should the manager decide to approve the request, they can do that from within this details screen, and we give a confirmation that the request was successfully approved. One last thing to note with regard to this homepage is that different users will care more about different functions. Although not demonstrated as part of this prototype, users will be able to change the order of the tabs at the top and control which view is the default landing spot upon login. This could be helpful, for example, for a manager who will mainly use the tool to approve requests. Now we'll look at the actual creation of a travel request. This is a task that will be performed by a majority of the tool's user base. This functionality walks the user through the process in a step-by-step manner often referred to as a wizard. On this screen, the user enters high-level information about the trip, including a trip purpose, description, the type of reservation they would like to make, the to and from location that can be entered as a zip code or as a city-state combination, and the start and end dates of the trip. They will also need to populate a cost center, which we can see details of by clicking on the cost center button, as we did in the details for the manager to approve or deny a request. Notice as we click next to progress to the next screen that our primary action buttons are marked with icons to make them stand out among the other options. Also, in addition to providing a breadcrumb showing users navigational orientation within the tool, we provide a simple progress bar indicating where the user currently stands in the book travel process. We are able to navigate using this bar, giving the user freedom and control over the process flow. So we could jump back to trip details and change some details here before we progress to the flight. Once the user reaches this step, they will be presented with airline options that align with the previously entered information. Users will be presented with airlines that match their criteria and will be informed as to the alignment of the flight with company policy. In this example, both Southwest and Delta are out-of-policy providers. We still allow the option of selecting these, as they can be overridden with proper managerial approval. The user then selects their flight of choice and is able to select a seat on the plane if desired. Note that selecting a flight also updates our running total. We have this next to the progress bar to denote that this is information relevant to the entire request as opposed to simply this screen. We would like to take a detour at this point and demonstrate our live reservation assistant. This is a feature that we would like to include to help users who may have questions about their reservation as they're setting it up. In this case, we ask about baggage fees, and the representative is able to help us understand that it's $20 per bag based on our rewards program with the company. So that's just a small side note, a help feature that we've included. Once the airline has been selected, the wizard will guide the user through the process of selecting a rental car. Once again, the information on this screen is pre-populated from the higher level information entered on the first screen of the wizard. Once a user clicks search, a list of options is displayed and the user is able to view details regarding the rental cars available to them. Once the user selects a car, the information is populated on this screen, the total is updated in the corner, and the user is able to progress to the next section. Here is where the user will book a hotel. Once again, pertinent information is populated from the main travel request screen. Once the user clicks search, the map will display results within the target area. Selecting one of these results generates a pop-up screen, giving users the option to select a room from the hotel. Amenities and price details can also be viewed on this page in order to help the user make a more informed decision. Once the room is selected, the user will progress to the final screen of the wizard. This is a request summary screen which allows the users to review all of their decisions before submitting the request. One of the things we'd like to demonstrate on this page is how we intentionally make it difficult for a user to commit an irreversible mistake. When we click Cancel Request, a pop-up confirms with the user that this is, in fact, the action that they'd like to take. After entering all that information, we don't want to cancel our request. So this just makes it a bit more difficult for the user to do something they might regret. If the user is pleased with the information on the screen, they can click Submit and complete the request. We provide a pop-up indicating that we've submitted the request, just to give the user a sense of closure instead of dropping them directly back to the home screen. Now we will take a look at the other main type of request handled by ExpenseIt. A reimbursement request differs from a booking request in that it is to request funds for a trip that has already happened. Information for this type of request can be populated in a variety of ways. First, information can be entered manually. The user enters the reason for travel, dates of travel, and a cost center, and then adds line items as necessary. Line items must be added manually in this method. We can assign receipts to these line items by clicking Upload to select a receipt or invoice for the appropriate line item. Hovering over one of these will give us an image of the receipt just so to make sure that we're selecting the right one, and then we can select the receipt to be added to the request. We can add line items and remove line items easily at will. Another way that we can populate this information is by pulling directly from a travel request. We could open the travel request that we created earlier, this business meeting from June 1st to June 6th, and populate the reimbursement request with that information. Finally, information could be imported from a credit card. Sadly, our prototype does not currently reflect this functionality, but you can see where the link is conveniently placed for this feature. Once all the details are in place, the request can be submitted with confirmation messages consistent with those for the booking request. For the final segment of our prototype walkthrough, we'd like to break away from the browser view of the tool and take a glimpse into the interface of the mobile application. The very first thing to notice upon logging in is that we remain consistent with the browser view by giving the same accordion options as we did in the main page. This increases consistency for the users, and it minimizes the amount of learning that is necessary to interact with the two interfaces. What we'd like to demonstrate within this mobile application is the ability to upload a receipt. So we'll click on that from the menu. At this point, the user will utilize the built-in camera to capture an image of the receipt. This will present an image of the receipt to the user. Once centered and aligned, the user will then select Scan. ExpenseIt's proprietary scanning software identifies key elements of the receipt and highlights each option. If everything seems to be captured correctly, the user selects Upload. At this point, the user is presented with the results of the scan. If any values need correcting, they can be done here. Once verified, select the Verified button. At this point, the receipt can be directly associated with an existing travel reservation or reimbursement request. In this case, we'll assign it to the business meeting that we created. The application confirms assigning the receipt to the selected business trip. Details regarding the upload are summarized and presented to the user, highlighting key terms such as the location of the receipt, the assigned travel reservation, and the description. If the application is linked to a user's shared folder, the file will also be saved in that location. The receipt can then be viewed either through the mobile app or through the web interface as demonstrated here.